Her name was Mehuk. She was the kind of girl who rarely spoke but noticed everything. In college, everyone saw her as quiet and soft-hearted. She didn't argue, didn't gossip, and never tried to stand out. Some people called her shy, others thought she was weak. But Mehuk never cared about what people said. She believed silence was her strength, too. Her best friend Ria was the complete opposite, loud, confident, and popular. Wherever Ria went, attention followed. Despite their differences, they got along well. Mehuk trusted Ria completely and often helped her with assignments, projects, and personal problems. Whenever Ria had a bad day, Mehuk listened without judgment. She thought their friendship was real. One day, a new guy named Ayan joined their class. He was charming, funny, and instantly became popular. Ria liked him from the first week and told Mehuk everything about her feelings. Mehuk just smiled and said, "If it's meant to be, it will be." But something unexpected happened. John started showing interest in Mehuk instead. He admired her calm nature and the way she spoke only when necessary. At first, Mehuk avoided him, not wanting to hurt Ria, but Eon's sincerity made her feel comfortable. Slowly, they became friends. They started studying together, sharing coffee after class, and texting late at night. Mehuk didn't realize it, but she was falling for him too. When Ria found out, everything changed. She stopped talking to Mehuk, started ignoring her, and soon began spreading rumors. She told everyone that Mehuk had stolen Ayan from her, that she was fake and manipulative behind her quiet face. The word spread fast, and suddenly Mehuk became the target of whispers and cruel jokes. Ayan tried to defend her, but Ria was clever. She twisted stories and made Mehuk look guilty. Even teachers began treating her differently. Mehuk stopped going to the cafeteria, avoided people, and kept her head down. She didn't cry in front of anyone, but inside, she was breaking. Then, one evening, she overheard Ria laughing with her friends, saying, "She's too weak to fight back. Girls, like her, only know how to stay silent." That sentence stayed with Mehuk. It hurt deeply, but it also woke something inside her. That night, as she sat by her window, she thought, maybe silence isn't always strength. Maybe it's time to show them what silence hides. From that day, she stopped being the quiet girl everyone pitied. She didn't shout, she didn't argue, and she didn't seek revenge right away. But deep in her calm eyes, a new fire began to burn, a promise that those who mistook her silence for weakness would soon understand what she was capable of. After that night, Mehuk's silence started to change. She still didn't speak much, but her eyes had a new focus. She began to observe people differently, their words, their actions, the lies they told behind smiles. She realized that people like Ria used others only as long as they were useful. Instead of isolating herself, Mehuk started to rebuild her routine, joined a few study groups quietly, and began helping others again. But this time, she kept her distance. Slowly, she began earning back respect, not through words, but through her calm confidence and consistent hard work. People started noticing that maybe she wasn't what Ria had made her out to be. Ayan, meanwhile, felt guilty. He tried many times to talk to Mehuk, but she always kept conversations short. He didn't understand that Mehuk wasn't angry with him. She was simply learning not to depend on anyone anymore. She had realized that trust, once broken, doesn't return the same way. One day, a major group project was announced in college. The professor randomly assigned teams, and fate did its work. Mehuk and Ria were placed in the same group, along with Ayan. Everyone looked at Mehuk, waiting for her reaction, but she simply nodded and said, "Let's focus on the project." Her calmness made Ria uncomfortable. As the days went by, Ria tried to take control of the group. She made decisions without consulting anyone and gave all the hard work to others. Mehuk quietly did her part without complaint. But what Ria didn't know was that Mehuk was keeping records, emails, chats, and all proof of who did what. The project presentation day finally arrived. The professor asked each team member to explain their part. Mehuk spoke last. In a clear, steady voice, she explained her work in detail, showing her research and the effort she had put in. Then, She politely added, "I handled these sections alone because my teammates were occupied with other things." Her tone was simple, but her words exposed Ria's lies without aggression. The professor looked surprised and turned to Ria. "Is that true?" Ria tried to defend herself, but the evidence was right there, all the records Mihawk had submitted. For once, Ria had no words. The professor gave full credit to Mihawk and appreciated her honesty and patience. After class, whispers spread again, but this time, not against Mihawk. People began talking about how calm and intelligent she was, how she had managed everything without drama. Ria's reputation began to crack, and she finally tasted the bitterness of her own game. That evening, Mihawk sat quietly in the campus garden, watching the sunset. Ayan walked up and said softly, "You handled that really well." She smiled faintly and replied, "You don't have to fight loudly to win. Sometimes, silence makes the biggest noise." Cillian sighed. She knew this was just the beginning. Ria had tried to humiliate her once. Now, she would learn that the silent girl she underestimated was not as weak as she thought. After the project incident, everything in college began to shift. People who once avoided Mihawk started greeting her again, and some even apologized quietly for believing the rumors. Mihawk didn't hold grudges. She simply smiled and moved on. Having learned that real power doesn't need revenge, it shows itself naturally when truth stands on its own. But Ria couldn't handle it. Her pride was wounded. She couldn't. T believed that the same girl she called weak had turned the tables without saying a single harsh word, so she began a new plan, acting nice. Again pretending to make peace, apologizing in front of others, saying she wanted to be friends again. Mihawk saw through it instantly. She had no interest in friendship built on lies, but she also didn't want to make enemies. So she simply said, "Sure," and let Ria believe she had won her back. Knowing that sometimes it's smarter to stay close to people who hurt you, not to trust them again, but to understand them better. As days passed, Ria slowly began trusting Mihawk again, thinking the past was forgotten, sharing secrets, complaints about teachers, personal problems, and her plans to impress a new guy in college. Mihawk listened quietly, never judging, never reacting. She just kept observing, and every little thing Ria said became another piece of the puzzle. Meanwhile, Ayan still respected Mihawk deeply. He admired her calm strength and maturity, and though they weren't as close as before, there was an unspoken connection between them, one built on understanding. Then one day, a rumor spread that Ria had cheated in an exam. Screenshots of leaked papers and messages began circulating in student groups. Everyone was talking about it. Ria panicked, denying everything, but the evidence was strong, and when the teachers investigated, they found her name linked to the chat that shared the answers. No one knew how those screenshots had leaked, but Mihawk did. She had seen Ria bragging about it a week earlier and had quietly saved the proof. She didn't plan to expose her at first. But when Ria started blaming innocent students, Mihawk sent the screenshots anonymously to the department head. Ria was suspended for 2 weeks. Her popularity vanished overnight, and the same people who once laughed at Mihawk now ignored Ria. Mihawk didn't celebrate. She didn't feel joy in Ria's downfall, only peace. She had done nothing wrong. She had only let the truth come out. That evening, Ayan found Mihawk in the library and said, "It's strange. You never say much, yet everything happens in your favor." Mihawk smiled slightly and said, "That's the thing about silence, Ayan. People mistake it for weakness, but it's really patience. And patience always wins." She closed her notebook, stood up, and walked away calmly. For the first time, Ayan realized that the quiet girl everyone had ignored was actually the strongest person among them all. Ria's suspension became the biggest talk in college for weeks. Everyone had their own version of the story, but no one knew the truth. Mihawk stayed out of it completely. She went to her classes, did her work, and kept her peace. People began to admire her calmness even more. Some called her the silent storm, quiet but unshakable. Ria, on the other hand, returned to college after 2 weeks, a completely different person. Her confidence had disappeared, her so-called friends avoided her, and the attention she once enjoyed was gone. She saw Mihawk in the hallway a few times, but never dared to speak. Shame and guilt kept her silent. One afternoon, Mihawk was sitting in the college garden, reading when Rhea approached her, too. Her eyes were swollen, and her voice trembled as she said, "I know you were the one who exposed me." Mihawk looked up calmly and replied, "I didn't expose you, Rhea. The truth did." Rhea sat down beside her, tears falling freely. "I was jealous of you," she admitted. "You never had to try to impress people, and still, everyone respected you. I just wanted to be better, but I ended up destroying myself." Mihawk listened quietly. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she spoke softly. "You know, Rhea, I never wanted revenge. I just wanted peace. But you kept forcing me to prove that being silent doesn't mean being weak." Rhea nodded slowly, unable to respond. She whispered, "I'm sorry." Mihawk closed her book and stood up. "I forgive you," she said gently, "but don't expect things to go back to how they were. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It just means I'm done carrying the pain." And with that, she walked away. That night, Mihawk sat by her window again, looking at the stars. For the first time in a long while, her heart felt light. She had finally let go of everything that hurt her, the betrayal, the humiliation, and the anger. Her silence had spoken louder than any words ever could. Over the next few weeks, life returned to normal. Mihawk became known for her talent in writing and was chosen to represent the college in an inter-university competition. Everyone praised her work, calling it powerful and emotional. What they didn't know was that her writing came from real pain, from the lessons silence had taught her. Ayan was proud of her. He once told her, "You didn't just win against Rhea Mihawk, you won against the part of yourself that used to doubt your worth." She smiled and replied, "Maybe that's what strength really is, finding peace in your own silence." Shu realized that she didn't need to shout for justice or scream for attention. Her quiet strength had done everything words could not. Months passed, and Mihawk's life began to bloom again. She had learned to trust herself more than anyone else. Her calmness, once mistaken for weakness, had become her greatest strength. People respected her not because she was loud, but because she carried herself with quiet dignity. The inter-university writing competition arrived, and Mihawk's story titled "The Girl Who Spoke Without Words" won first place. It was about a silent girl who was betrayed, but rose stronger than before. When she went on stage to receive the award, the whole auditorium applauded. She looked at the crowd and smiled, not because she wanted attention, but because she finally felt free. After the ceremony, as she walked out of the hall, she saw Rhea waiting near the gate. She looked nervous, but smiled softly. "I read your story," she said quietly. "It felt like you were writing about us." Mihawk nodded. "Maybe I was," she replied calmly. "But it's not about revenge anymore. It's about healing." Rhea lowered her eyes. "You've really changed, Mihawk." Mihawk shook her head gently. "No, Rhea. I didn't change. I just stopped letting people decide who I am." They stood in silence for a few seconds. The wind blew softly, and it felt like the past was finally fading away. Rhea said goodbye and walked away, and for the first time, Mihawk felt no anger, only peace. That evening, Mihawk went to her favorite spot by the lake, the place she used to visit when she felt lost. The sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and red. She opened her diary and wrote her final note. "Some people will mistake your silence for fear. Let them, because when the time is right, your silence will speak louder than their lies." As she closed her diary, her phone buzzed. It was Ayan. "Congratulations, Mihawk," his message read, proven that silence has power." She smiled and replied, "It always did. People just never noticed." That night, she looked at herself in the mirror and realized how far she had come. The pain, the betrayal, the loneliness, they had all shaped her into someone strong and graceful. She wasn't the weak, silent girl anymore. She was the girl who could destroy with truth and heal with calmness. From that day on, everyone in college remembered Mihawk not for her silence, but for the power that silence carried. She had taught everyone one final lesson: never mess with a silent girl, because the storm she hides inside is far louder than any words you'll ever hear.